Chapter 64, which is called the Scroll of Noach, verse 1. In those days, Noach saw that the earth became deviated and that its destruction was imminent. So, as we know, obviously, the flood is the destruction mentioned here. And also, as we know, Mashiach said that the days of the Son of Man would be like the days of Noach. So this that we are about to read fits our time, and it will have several connections with the end times, which is obviously one of the reasons why it was written. So once again, in those days, Noach saw that the earth became deviated and that its destruction was imminent, just like it is imminent at the moment. It should be obvious for every person with eyes to see that we are at the end of history and that its destruction is imminent because of the sins of the people of the whole world, not just one country. The whole world has fallen and is going pretty much crazy with fear, fear of COVID, fear of wars. You know how bad it is. Well, we actually don't know how bad it is, but it seems to be very bad at Afghanistan, and it will continue to get worse and worse, for it is part of actually the second law of thermodynamics, which is being fulfilled now in a, as they would say, global scale. And I say they because, well, the term global, but is the term used. And yeah, it is worldwide, pretty much all the confusion, death, also natural disasters. You know about the earthquake in Haiti, 7.2, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of people died. And I repeat, it will continue to get worse and worse, but that should help us to feel, feel good in the sense of knowing that everything that is written will be fulfilled, for it is being fulfilled. And to know that our Creator is the Almighty who knew the end from the beginning, and that's why it was all written down for us. So even though it is bad for the world, it is a confirmation of who we are and who our Creator is and what He is about to do. So we must just persevere. We must trust the Almighty and not fall into the trap of the enemy, which is fear, in order to make us fall during this tribulation that is starting. So in those days, Noach saw that the earth became deviated and that its destruction was imminent. Then he departed from there and went to the limits of the land. Then he departed from there and went to the limits of the land, to the dwelling of his great grandfather Hanoch. And it says, verse 3, and he cried out and said to him 3 times with a bitter voice, hear me, hear me, hear me. I told him, tell me what is occurring upon the earth for it to suffer such great labors and tremble violently. Tell me what is occurring upon the earth for it to suffer such grave labors and tremble violently. So the grave labors, as the labors of a woman giving birth, the pain of a woman in birth, as we know, is a term also used for the end times. Mainly for the end time, since it will be the time when the creation will give birth to the reality that Yahweh created it for. Also, the trembling, as in the earthquake that I just mentioned, and many other earthquakes that have been going on around the world. The earth is trembling, for it knows what is about to happen, and also part of the trembling has to do with the wrath of Yahweh when he's angry. it trembles. So tell me what is occurring upon the earth for it to suffer such great labors and tremble violently. I may perish with it. Following this, there was a great shaking on the earth. And then a voice sounded from the heavens, and I fell down on my face. But Hanoch, my great grandfather who came, stayed close by me, and he said to me, why have you cried out to me with a bitterness and weeping? For a commandment has gone forth from Yahweh against those who dwell on the earth, that they may be completely destroyed. For a commandment has gone forth from Yahweh against those who dwell on the earth, that they may be completely destroyed. For they all have known the secrets of the watchers. For they all have known the secrets of the watchers. So, well, first of all, it's interesting that Hanoch asks, why have you cried out to me with a bitterness and weeping? Which one could say the question, well, actually, the answer is obvious. Even more after we read that Hanoch knew what was going on. But instead, we should understand that the question has to do with the fact that Noach should know. So it's like, why are you acting like that when you knew this was going to happen? Also, another way of seeing it is like, why are you bitter if the destruction that is coming has nothing to do with you? It has to do with the evil people. So it's like I was saying regarding everything that is happening in the world. I know that it may be hard for some people, but it should actually help us to feel better, for we know that everything is being fulfilled, and Yahweh told us that he will protect us. So why have you cried out to me with a bitterness and weeping? For a commandment has gone forth from Yahweh against those who dwell on the earth, that they may be completely destroyed. For they all have known the secrets of the watchers. So this is one of the reasons, because of those secrets that the watchers gave humanity, man started to sin like never before, and they needed to be destroyed. So for they will have known the secrets of the watchers, all the violence of the adversaries, all their occult powers, the power of the evildoers, each power of those who commit sorcery, as well as the power of those who make molten images in the entire earth. So we see how before the flood, they were already making idols, molten images to worship. And since the fallen angels came down, and many of them claimed to be what they now call gods, they started to be worshipped. Humans made molten images and started to worship them. How silver is produced from the dust of the earth, and how tin originates in the earth, and lead and bronze are not being produced from the earth as at first, rather a spring produces it. And there is a prominent envoy staying there, and that envoy struggles to prevail. And there is a prominent envoy or malach, angel, staying there, and that envoy or malach struggles to prevail. Afterwards, my Afterwards, my great grandfather Hanoch grabbed me by the hand, lifted me up, and told me, go, for I have asked the sovereign of spirits respecting this shaking of the earth. He has replied to me, on account of their injustice, their judgments have been determined, and it shall never be detained by me because of the sorceries that they have researched and learned. The earth and those who dwell on it shall be destroyed. And all of this that they were doing back in the day, they are doing now. And they are not only doing it, they are teaching all people to do it, children. And I mean, because there are levels and types of sorcery, different types of it. But for instance, it is crazy to see nowadays, and for a while, but nowadays more than ever, how kids' cartoons have sorcery and magic like crazy. Is filled, like children's entertainment is filled with sorcery and magic. So they are growing thinking that it is good, it is the way. And like I said, it has been for years, but nothing like nowadays. And other than teaching everybody that magic is something good or cool or whatever, on the other hand, they are teaching to hate the Almighty, to go against the Creator, the Messiah, to blaspheme, etc., etc. And once again, back in the day, like people would be they still are, of course, but to a greater extent, people will be ashamed of saying that they believe in a creator or that they read the scriptures. People, which is weird and crazy, but it is something that sadly is normal in this world. People are kind of ashamed of believing because of what they are told by the supposed scientists and the supposed people that are or who think to be so smart, right? So since those people who are given so much praise in this world for pretty much fooling the masses with what they teach, all those supposed intellectuals, since they make it like that, people who are growing up and seeing those supposed intellectuals have such hate for the spiritual, for the Almighty, for the Creator, they grow up thinking that believing in a Creator is something that only stupid people do. That dumb people who really don't know how things are simply find it as the only answer for everything. So they have made it so that people are ashamed, most people ashamed of the Creator in which in whom they believe. And I repeat, nothing like nowadays. Nowadays is amazing. And everything that you see on TV, every show, everything has a message of blasphemy, a message of uh, hate towards the Creator, also hate towards men, mainly white males. The female is now the image of pretty much manlyhood, which is crazy. And everything is upside down, pretty much. Like scripture said it would. They would call good evil and evil good. So now they're calling males females and females males. Females are acting like males, males are acting like females. They are dressing like each other, and they are teaching their children to do so also. And obviously, children are growing completely confused, not knowing who they are, who they really are, and they are being told that they can be whoever they want or whatever they want. For I've seen people claiming they are things. They are no longer male or female. Sometimes they decide they are a thing. They are objects now. That is a new sexual uh, uh, inclination, pretty much. So it's crazy, and I wish I could just show you a little bit of everything that I have in my mind right now, because I normally I tend to watch stuff that is um I guess, well, I like comedy, but now it's hard to find good comedy, really. Like there's no good comedy. So what I kind of do is just look at how people are acting, and there are people who make videos of memes and stuff like that, showing how crazy society is acting, how crazy it is. And I don't know how much you have seen of it, but what I have seen is enough to really go a bit crazy, because it's completely sad how the enemy has fooled the masses. It is even, I don't know, it's weird. It's like another reality. in which people are living, really. So once again, because of the sorceries that they have researched and learned, the earth and those who dwell on it shall be destroyed. So the same nowadays, and even worse, because this generation is even worse than that one, because this is the worst generation of all generations in history. Yet people think that they are super smart nowadays. They think they are super free when they cannot even go out without a mask covering their mouth. So it says here, they think it's for the weak when it is actually for the brave and strong. Exactly, brother. So verse 11, respecting those envoys, there shall be no opportunity for their repentance. Respecting those malachim, those angels, there shall be no opportunity for their repentance, because they have revealed what was secret and are damned. Like I said, one of the reasons why they are not given opportunity for their repentance is because they had knowledge that man didn't, and that gives them more of a responsibility. And the fact that they revealed those secrets to humans in order for humans to act sinful made them pretty much fall and get to this position in which they cannot repent. So because they have revealed what was secret and are damned. But concerning you, my son, they have looked into the occult, and they are those who have been judged, but not you, my son. So this is what we must understand nowadays. Yahweh will destroy the wicked. Yahweh will destroy those who are rebelling against him. We shouldn't worry if we actually remain set apart and continue to seek his presence and fulfill his will. The sovereign of spirits knows that you are pure and not at fault and blameless concerning the occult. He will establish your name among those of the set apart ones, and will preserve you among those who dwell upon the earth. He will establish your seed in righteousness, for royalty and for great honors. And from your seed shall spring forth righteous ones and set apart ones without number forever. Set apart ones without number forever. As we know, we all came from Noach, and therefore that was fulfilled already. And even more so when we take into account that from Shem came Israel, and from Israel would come those that are chosen by the Almighty through Mashiach, and who will go into eternity, and who will multiply even more. Therefore, it says here, and from your seed shall spring forth righteous ones and set apart ones without number forever. Chapter 65. After this, he showed me the envoys of punishment, who were prepared to come and to unleash the might of the waters that are under the earth. A lot of people think that when the flood happened, it was just a lot of rain, but that's not the case. When the flood happened, as it says there, the waters that are under the earth were unleashed. So water not only came from the heavens, and in a greater extent because the windows of the heavens opened, so there were pretty much waterfalls from the heavens coming down, plus the water under the earth also gushing out and hot, so that those giants who were trying to stop the water from getting into the earth would get burned when trying to do so. So the water was boiling hot, and it was coming from the earth as well as from the heavens. So what Yahweh did was pretty much he united once again the waters that were above the firmament with the waters below the firmament, as we see in Genesis 1, the second day when he separated the waters. So on this flood, on this day, Yahweh united them once again, which is interesting also because the waters above the firmament are masculine, the ones below are feminine. So when he united them, pretty much is like the waters having relations in a ways to bring something new. And that new thing was the new world after the flood, of course, right? In which Noach became the new Adam, for he was the father of all humanity afterwards. So the union of the waters from above and below brought forth the new world. And as we know, Yahushua is the water of life, and we must be immersed in water. So the whole world was immersed in water as a representation of what would come afterwards. And as we know, that water destroyed the whole world except for Noah, who was in an ark. Just like the water of life, Mashiach, gives life to those who are within him, yet those who reject him will be destroyed. For he's not only the cornerstone, but also the stone that falls on those who don't believe and breaks them in pieces. So it says, after this, he showed me the envoys of punishment who were prepared to come and to unleash the might of the waters that are under the earth, that they may be for judgment and for the destruction of all those who remain and dwell upon the earth. And the sovereign of spirits commanded the envoys who went forth not to raise up the waters, rather that they should repress them. For those envoys presided over all the might of the waters. Then I went out from the presence of Hanok. I'm not sure if this is a question, brother. Is Yahweh above the waters, above the firmament? If so, yeah, he's above even, well, because it's kind of hard to actually say that Yahweh is above, because that would place him somewhere, yet he's everywhere. But in the sense of what above represents, yeah, he's above everything. That's why he's the most high. And in the sense of the realities, the firmament is pretty much the heavens of this reality. Then comes the second heaven, which is that of the angels, which is a higher reality. And then comes the heaven of Yahweh, the third heaven. So he's above all, but in a higher sense that we can understand, really. Also, the fact that Yahweh placed his throne above the earth is simply because, well, in everything in life, even strategy, that war, the one who is in the high plane has greater power, greater possibility of winning, like I said, in a war. So being above is a good trait, and that's why Yahweh set up everything in a way that he is above all things, and he's called Elyon, the highest. But like I said, he's everywhere, and everything is within him. Therefore, to speak of him being above everything is kind of making him fit into our perception of reality, having to do with matter and space. Because only within space can something be above or below or right or left. Yet he is above even space, above time. So outside of space, outside of time. And he's spirit, so he has nothing to do with matter other than the fact that he created it. So where it says numbers without number, confirmation that we will continue to multiply in eternity. Exactly, bro. Yeah. So Chapter 66. In those days, the word of Yahweh Elohim came to me. So as we know, the word is Yahushua HaMashiach. So that would be Mashiach appearing to Noach. In those days, the word of Yahweh Elohim came to me and said, Noach, look, your lot has ascended up to me, a spotless lot, a lot of love and of uprightness. So now the envoys are constructing a wooden structure, and when they finish their task, I will extend my hand upon it and preserve it. So now the envoys are constructing a wooden structure, and when they finish their task, I will extend my hand upon it and preserve it. And the seed of life shall germinate from it, and a change shall take place, so that the dry land shall not remain unoccupied. I will establish your seed before me forever and ever. I shall disseminate those who dwell with you, and it shall not be barren. Rather, it shall be blessed and multiplied. Rather, it shall be blessed and multiplied on the surface of the earth within the name of Yahweh. Here's something obviously that stands out, which is the fact that it says, now the envoys are constructing a wooden structure. Because we know, when we read the book of Yashar, we see how the Almighty told Noah to build the ark. In fact, we see not only in the book of Yashar, but also in Genesis, pretty much the way it is explained that Noah was given the job of building the ark. He even planted the trees that would grow, and then he cut them so that they will all be the same size, and all, well, a bunch of details that we are given in the book of Yashar. So it was Noah, his job to make the ark, while Yahweh would bring the animals. So Yahweh brought the animals pretty much through instinct. The animals knew that they had to approach the ark and enter it in pairs and all of that. Yet we see here now the envoys are constructing a wooden structure, and when they finish their task, I will extend my hand upon it and preserve it. So a couple ways of seeing it would be that the envoys actually helped Noach with the ark, which is obviously a possibility. But also remember that when Yahweh showed Moshe how to make the Mishkan, he was shown a Mishkan. And that Mishkan, or that tabernacle, would have been created by, in this case, envoys, angels. So in a way, my point is that, like Mashiach said, let your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So therefore, for things to go down on earth, they must happen in heaven as well. Moshe was given a vision of the heavenly Mishkan, so that then Moshe would build one, and not even Moshe, it was Betzalel, as we know. So in a way, what we see here with Noach, who was given the job of making an ark. So now the envoys are constructing a wooden structure, and when they finish their task, I will extend my hand upon it and preserve it. And the seed of life shall germinate from it. Like, oh, okay, so on the one hand, obviously we can see this as the ark in which Noach was, yet it says, and the seed of life shall germinate from it. While we know Noach was the one who was in the ark, and it was his seed, Shem, Ham, and Yafet, who came out of that ark, and then they multiplied for all humanity to be born, pretty much. But like I was saying, the ark represents those who are within Mashiach, those who accept Mashiach. And Mashiach is the seed of life, for Yahushua is the life, the eternal life, and the seed of Yahweh, the word of Yahweh. So in a way, when the Torah was written, and I'm saying an example, for there are several ways in which we could see it. When the Torah was written, and as we know, also taking it back to Moshe, when Moshe went up for the Torah, the angels did not want to give the Torah to Moshe, yet Yahweh told the angels that the Torah was not for the angels, and it was obvious because of the laws within it. So they ended up giving the Torah to Moshe. The Torah was written by Yahweh, of course, but just like people say it is the Torah of Moshe. Why? Because Moshe wrote it after hearing it from Yahweh. We can think of it in the same way when it comes to the revelation of the Torah in the second heaven. Somebody had to hear it and write it down. And then from that second heaven came to us through Moshe. And when the Torah was written down, in it, the whole plan of Yahweh was written, and the coming of the Messiah to save us through him dying on a wooden cross. So now the envoys are constructing a wooden structure. And when they finish their task, I will extend my hand upon it and preserve it. And the seed of life shall germinate from it. And a change shall take place, so that the dry land shall not remain unoccupied. So that the dry land shall not remain unoccupied. So he was saying, like I said, when it comes to the ark, the literal one, they would come out and eventually occupy all the earth. But spiritually, through the plan of Yahweh written down in the Torah, it was shown that Mashiach would die on a wooden structure. And through the power of the Almighty, life would germinate from it and would make a change of the whole world, of our whole reality, so that the dry land shall not remain unoccupied. Then it says, I will establish your seed before me forever and ever. The seed, look how it is in capital, because it is actually referring to the same seed promised to Abraham. Remember that Abraham was told that a seed would come from him. And he wasn't talking about Yitzhak, he was talking about Yahushua HaMashiach, for he believed and he was counted for righteousness. So Noach was being told that Mashiach would come from him, obviously, eventually, from Shem. So Shem represented Mashiach. That's why Shem means name. Because Mashiach, who came from Shem, was given the name above every name through which we can be saved. So I will establish your seed before me forever and ever. I shall disseminate those who dwell with you, and it shall not be barren. Rather, it shall be blessed and multiplied on the surface of the earth within the name of Yahweh. He shall confine the watchers who have demonstrated unrighteousness in that burning valley, which at first my great-grandfather Hanoch showed me in the west. Near where there were mountains of gold and silver, of iron and tin and lead. So that was on chapter 51, chapter 53. As you can see right there, we already read that. So I will continue. So he shall confine the watchers who have demonstrated unrighteousness in that burning valley, which at first my great-grandfather Hanoch showed me in the west, near where there were mountains of gold and silver, of iron, of tin, and lead. I looked at that valley in which there was great perturbation, and where their waters were troubled. And when all this happened, from that burning molten mass of metal, and from the agitation which troubled them in that place, there arose a strong smell of sulfur, which became mixed with the waters. In that valley where the watchers who had been guilty of seduction burned underneath its soil. From its valleys flow rivers of fire, where those watchers are punished, who have seduced the inhabitants of the earth. In these days, these watchers shall be used by the kings, the mighty, the exalted, and the inhabitants of the earth, for the fitness of the body and for the punishment of the spirit. In these days, these watchers shall be used by the kings, which is interesting, for we know that the kings of nowadays, the Illuminati and all those who have control over the world, reason why the world is the way it is, they have been using the fallen angels. They have been using the knowledge given by the fallen angels in order to control the masses. In these days, these watchers shall be used by the kings, the mighty, the exalted, and the inhabitants of the earth, for the fitness of the body and for the punishment of the spirit. Interestingly enough, how focused people are nowadays in their bodies, fitness, and the opposite regarding their spirit. They really do not care about their spirit. Many don't even believe there is a spirit, but they continually try to make their bodies fit. And like I have said also, that has to do with the Greek culture, which obviously came way, way after this, but it came from here. And that's why in Greece, the temples were the gyms were the temples, the gymnasium. So people would go and work on their bodies and worship their muscles, worship their bodies. And that is why also the Olympics and all of that started. So for the fitness of the body and for the punishment of the spirit. And their spirits shall be full of lust, that their flesh shall be punished, because they have rejected the sovereign of spirits. And although they shall be aware of their condemnation day by day, even so they shall not believe in his name. Once again, and their spirits shall be full of lust, which we are seeing nowadays, full of lust, and not just lust in the sense of the sexual desires that people have nowadays, so much so that is all they talk about. Not only just sex, but the sexual orientation that everybody claims to have or not have is all they talk about, as if that was the actual identity of a person. How much lust and towards whom that lust is directed, as if that was the identity of a person. They focus everything on lust, on their sexual desires. And I repeat, children are growing up all confused, because obviously they do not have those desires unless they are molested, of course, sadly. But children, very, very young people do not have those desires when it comes to sexuality, yet they are being told that they must decide who they are sexually attracted to. So they get all confused because they think that friendship is sexual attraction. They think that because they like somebody, that means they would have sex with that somebody. So all of a sudden they are homosexuals or pansexuals or a bunch of other names, because it's amazing how crazy it is. All the names that they have nowadays for sexual orientations. I was just seeing earlier, and I would, yeah, well, I'm not going to show it because I will have to go and look for it. But a person, I actually saw like 3 videos from TikTok of people explaining some sexual, some of their identities pretty much. And the names are just, they're going crazy. They're making up names like nothing. And other than that, the pronouns that they decide to be called, and some of them want to be called by certain pronouns in the morning, other pronouns in the afternoon, and different pronouns at night, because they feel like, they say they're fluid, gender fluid. So they feel like they're males, and 2 hours later, because they're so emotional, all of a sudden they're females. So they're changing like that, and they are thinking, and yeah, they think that we should call them like they want. And they make up pronouns. They just make them up, and they expect everybody to know them when they make them up, and they can change by the hour. So they're so confused in their minds and their hearts, and they are trying to bring that confusion to society. And because of the Illuminati, because of the control of Satan over this world, they are pushing it onto society. So, and their spirits shall be full of lust. They're not full of pureness. They're not full of love. They're full of lust. Once again, they're so confused that they confuse lust with love, which has nothing to do the one with the other. And their spirits shall be full of lust, that their flesh shall be punished, because they have rejected. So just a second. And that, I guess I could go to Romans 1, but I might take forever reading that because it's like the whole chapter, which is so important. Romans 1, which explains how because of idolatry, Yahweh allowed homosexuality to happen. So idolatry led to homosexuality and all types of perversion afterwards. And I repeat, it's in Romans 1, but it is similar to what we read here. Their spirits shall be full of lust, that their flesh shall be punished, because they have rejected the sovereign of spirits. So Yahweh allows their spirits to be full of lust so that they may be destroyed because of it, because it is just natural. It is the consequence of lust to be destroyed. I don't think it's a coincidence that it is so similar to being lost, L-O-S-T, so similar to L-U-S-T. A person who is full of lust will be eventually lost. So, and their spirits shall be full of lust, that their flesh shall be punished, because they have rejected the sovereign of spirits. And although they shall be aware of their condemnation day by day, because it is in their hearts, they know it. That's why, because they know it is shameful to be a homosexual, that's why they have to make a month of pride, because they know it's shameful. So they must call it prideful, trying to go against nature, trying to go against reality, and trying to force everybody to accept their sin when they themselves cannot really accept it. And then they get mad at us. So their spirits shall be full of lust, that their flesh shall be punished, because they have rejected the sovereign of spirits. And although they shall be aware of their condemnation day by day, they are aware, even so they shall not believe in his name. It's amazing how clear it is. Even so they shall not believe in his name. They don't care about his name. They don't want to believe in his name. And look how much homosexuality has entered Christianity. First, Catholicism, no question about that, is full of it, and everybody knows it. And then one would have hoped that Christianity would be a bit different when Protestants came about, and that they would go against that homosexuality sin. However, it is now into Christianity also, and there are preachers who are homosexuals and transsexuals. And I just read about a transsexual who just came out of the closet, as they say, and he was a pastor. He came out of the closet as a transsexual, so he was fired. But now he's suing the congregation for firing him. It's amazing how, as if they did not know that the book they are teaching about is against that which they are doing. So that is having no shame at all. And in any sense, not before the Father, thinking that the Father agrees with their actions, even though he's so against it all over scriptures. He calls it abomination. And as the burning of their bodies shall be severe, thus shall their spirits undergo a change forever. And as the burning of their bodies shall be severe, thus shall their spirits undergo a change forever. So the fire that would consume them would actually get to change their spirits. So we can think of a spiritual fire, that of hell, and their spirits in it being consumed by it and therefore changed, just like fire changes matter. In this case, it will be talking about the spirit being changed because of that spiritual fire that will burn them. And as the burning of their bodies shall be severe, thus shall their spirits undergo a change forever. Because no one shall utter a word of the lie against the sovereign of spirits, because no one shall utter a word of the lie against the sovereign of spirits, because judgment shall come upon them, because they trusted in their carnal lust. There's a comment. It says Baal and Ashtaroth, which we know Baal is Lord in English, and Ashtaroth is the one they call also the Queen of Heaven, who now is being worshipped as Mary. As we know, Mary was not the name of Yahushua's mother. His mother was called Miriam. I know similar, but it's not the same. Miriam was the name of Yahushua's mother. Mary is whom they worship, and is another name for Ashtaroth, Astarte, and other names. So Baal and Ashtaroth worship are based on carnal lust, and the names of the gods worshipped today are based on these. Like I said, the Lord and his mother, pretty much. Everybody knows that image of a mother and her son, and that is not Mashiach and his mother. That image of the mother and the son is the one worshipped pretty much throughout all human history, starting with Baal and Ashtaroth. So, as I was saying, because judgment shall come upon them, because they trusted in their carnal lust and rejected the spirit of Yahweh. They trusted in their carnal lust. That is crazy. Because it is one thing to feel certain lust and be able and ask the Almighty for control of it, and obviously get rid of all that is evil, but in the sense of the feelings that one might get because of being in the flesh. But it is another thing, which is what a lot of people are doing nowadays, like I was saying, to actually trust in those feelings, trust in lust as if it was the Ruach HaKodesh, as if it was the spirit. So they are led by those feelings. And that's why, all the things that are going on nowadays. Because judgment shall come upon them, because they trusted in their carnal lust and rejected the spirit of Yahweh. In those days shall the waters of that valley be changed. In those days shall the waters of that valley be changed. For when the watchers are punished in them, the springs of water change their temperature. And when the envoys shall raise the water of the springs, they become cold. And when the envoys shall raise the water of the springs, they become cold. I heard Michael answering, and he said, this judgment with which the watchers are judged is a testimony against the kings. So pretty much, as we know, when the Almighty tells us to go and preach to somebody, if that person doesn't listen, it's fine. It's not, well, unless we did a wrong explanation or whatever. But if we are given the best that we can to bring others to him, if those others don't decide to come to him and believe in him, then it doesn't mean that we fail. That happens so that that which we told them will work in judgment as a testimony against them. So when they present themselves before the Father, they won't have an excuse because they know, because we told them. So they won't be able to excuse themselves. In a way, like we're seeing here, it says, this judgment with which the watchers are judged is a testimony against the kings, the mighty, and those who take possession of the land. Those who have possession of the land of the world right now, they won't have an excuse, for they know what they are doing, even though they claim that they are doing it for the good of humanity. They think that it is necessary to kill so many people in order to let humanity continue. They think they are the ones who must do the dirty job in order to keep humanity going. They think that the creator is an evil, mighty one, and that Lucifer is the good one. They actually claim that. But they don't have an excuse for it. They know the scriptures, and most of the time, even better than most Christians. They know scriptures, yet they claim that the one from scriptures is the evil one, and that Lucifer is the one that actually loves humans and is helping humans. So they are opening a door for Satan to enter this reality, and they will regret it because there will be a testimony against them. The judgment that has fallen on the fallen angels will come on them as well, for they became their servants, their slaves. And a slave is a possession of their Lord, pretty much. So the slave is a possession, is like an object. So if Satan, who is their slave master, is thrown into hell, he will be thrown into hell with all his possessions. And those possessions are a lot of human souls who have decided to worship him, follow him, and making a place for him in this reality. So this judgment with which the watchers are judged is a testimony against the kings, the mighty, and those who take possession of the land. For these waters of judgment shall be for their curing and for the death of their bodies. But they shall not perceive or believe that the waters will be exchanged and become a fire, which shall blaze for the age. Like I said, in the literal sense, the waters became hot and burned them. But in the spiritual sense, Yahushua is the water. And since he's mercy, they think that they won't be punished as they deserve. Yet the waters will become fire. How? When the first becomes the last, and that mercy turns into judgment. So for these waters of judgment shall be for the curing and for the death of their bodies. Just like Mashiach, who is the water, is he who cures us, but for them means death. For it is written, death, I am your death. So, and for the death of their bodies, but they shall not perceive or believe that the waters will be exchanged and become a fire, which shall blaze for the age. Like I said, first and last, water and fire. So the water will turn into a fire, but they don't believe it. They don't believe that the water will change into fire. And we know And we know that whatever the Torah says, it says to those who are in the Torah, so that every mouth might be stopped and all the world come under judgment before Elohim. This is very important. And all the world come under judgment before Elohim. Therefore, by works of Torah, no flesh shall be declared right before him. Therefore, by works of Torah, no flesh shall be declared right before him. For by the Torah is the knowledge of sin. That is why, as I had explained in the past, the Torah is actually the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's why by the Torah is the knowledge of sin. That is why, just like when Adam and Eve ate of the tree of knowledge, death entered. Just like when we read the Torah and we realize that death already entered us through any sin that we may have committed against the Torah. For the Torah says that he who sins deserves death. That's it. One sin is over. You break the law once, you broke the whole law. So the law, the Torah, was given to show that we need another way, to show that we need the Father, the Creator, his Son. So therefore, by works of Torah, no flesh shall be declared right before him. For by the Torah is the knowledge of sin. But now, apart from the Torah, a righteousness of Elohim has been revealed, being witnessed by the Torah and the prophets. And the righteousness of Elohim is through belief in Yahushua, HaMashiach, to all and all who believe, for there is no difference. To all and on all who believe, for there is no difference. So the Torah was given to show us the need that we had for Mashiach. And Mashiach became our righteousness through faith, just like it was prophesied in the Torah, for instance, with Abraham, like I already said. So then he says, who said, okay, he says that Lucifer is the good one. Illuminati, the secret societies, Freemasons, Albert Pike, Manly Pijo, Alice Bailey, and other ones, a bunch of other ones that are behind, or well, were, because they're dead already. New Age, the New Age religion. So they claim that Lucifer is the good one. But mainly what I was referring to was mainly Masonry. And Albert Pike, who wrote a lot about, according to him, Lucifer being the good one. So chapter 67. After this, my great-grandfather Hanoch gave me the interpretation of all the secrets in the scroll and in the parables that had been given to him, and he summarized them for me in the words of the scroll of parables. Chapter 67. After this, my great-grandfather Hanoch gave me the interpretation of all the secrets in the scroll and in the parables that had been given to him, and he summarized them for me in the words of the scroll of parables, which we read last 3 studies. That day, Michael spoke and said to Raphael, who is the Malach in charge of the health of humans, the force of the Spirit impels me and makes me strain from the severity of the condemnation for the secrets and the punishment of the envoys. Who could endure the rigorous sentence which has been executed and before which they are undone? Again, Michael spoke and said to the set-apart Raphael, does anyone exist whose heart would not be touched by this and whose reins would not be troubled by this? Troubled by this sentence that has been uttered against those who have been cast away? But it occurred that when Michael arrived before the sovereign of spirits, he said to Raphael, I shall not take up their portion before the sight of Yahweh, since the sovereign of spirits is furious with them, for they have conducted themselves as if they were sovereigns. Therefore, all the hidden condemnation shall come against them for the ages of the ages. For they were not only punished during the flood, they were sent to hell for the ages of the ages, and they are still there until they will be released for them to destroy the humans who have been worshiping them, pretty much. Since neither shall an envoy nor a man receive a portion of it, but they alone have received their own judgment for the ages of the ages. Therefore, all the hidden condemnation shall come against them for the ages of the ages, since neither shall an envoy nor a man receive a portion of it. That punishment which those watchers would go through. But they alone have received their own judgment for the ages of the ages. Chapter 68. After this judgment, they shall be astonished, and it will make them tremble. For that condemnation shall be exhibited to the inhabitants of the earth. Here are the names of these watchers. Shemichasa, who was the foremost. Shemichasa was the leader of all. His name means he who sees the name. So he was an important malach, for he had the ability to look at the malach who represented the Almighty Creator, therefore who represented his name. So here are the names of these watchers. Shemichasa, who was the foremost. And in sequence, following him, Artakov, Ramael, Kokabel, another ending with El, Turel. Well, a translation has Turel here. Another one has just the El, but that would be the end of a name, so most likely would be this one. Then Ramael, Daniel, Zekel, Barakel, Azael, Azael who became Azazel from Leviticus 16, and who became very prominent in the negative sense, even more than Shemchasa himself. That's why all sin was attributed to Azazel, or in this case, Azael. So Azael is the one who will become the abomination of desolation, the false Messiah. Then it says Harmony, Matrael, Ananel, Zatoel, Shamsiel, Sahariel, Tumiel, Turiel, Yomiel, and Yehadiel. And those which follow are the names of his envoys, of his leaders of hundreds and fifties. The first who lamented it was who induced all the sons of the heavens and caused them to descend on earth and seduced them with the daughters of Adam. It says here, Yakum means he lamented. Most translators err and think this is another name for Shemechasa. So some translations here, instead of lamented it, write Yakum as if it was another name for Shemechasa, of whom this verse is speaking. So the first who lamented it was who induced all the sons of the heavens and caused them to descend on earth and seduce them with the daughters of Adam. The name of the second is Asbael. The name of the second is Asbael, gave an evil counsel to the sons of the heavens and led them to corrupt themselves with the daughters of Adam. The name of the third is Gadriel. This is important. Listen to this. The name of the third is Gadriel. He revealed to the daughters of men all the ways to give death. He revealed to the daughters of men all the ways to give death. And he says to the daughters. So for instance, abortion would enter here, but that's not the point I wanted to show. Look how it says, it was he who led astray Chava, and he is who taught the sons of Adam the instruments of death. So it was he who led astray Chava, known as Eve, right? So look at this name, Gadriel. And look at this. So this Gadriel is also called God. And it was him who gave Eve the fruit, or well, led her to take the fruit, as it says here. So there are a couple ways in which we can see this. One is that this would be another name for Halel. This would be another name for Lucifer. Yet, well, the other one would be that Halel, Lucifer, sent Gadriel to do the dirty job when that happened. Now, I repeat, the name God, you can see it right there. So in Isaiah 65:11, let's see how they translate it here. Yep. It says, but you are those who forsake Yahweh, who forget my set apart mountain, who prepare a table for God, who prepare a table for God, and who fill a drink offering for many. Many is destiny, God is fortune. That is why Lucifer, aka God, told Yahushua when he tempted him that Lucifer told Yahushua that he could give him all the power over all the kingdoms of the earth because they were given to him, and then he could give them to anybody who he wanted. But obviously, Yahushua rejected that offer, yet the Illuminati accepted it, and that's why they have power over the world. But we see here how Yahweh is complaining about the fact that people reject Yahweh to follow God. They love God and they reject and hate Yahweh. That God would be the God who is called also the ancient serpent, the one who would have offered the knowledge of good and evil to Chava. And that's why we are seeing here in Hanoch about that angel called Gadriel. So like I said, there are two ways of seeing it. Either this is another name for Halel, another name for Lucifer, or this is a watcher, an angel that would have been sent by Lucifer as the snake. Hope that's clear. So the name of the third is Gadriel. He revealed, and the reason why I say that, because this is mentioning fallen angels already, angels that fell down in that time and were punished. But as we know, Halel, Lucifer, will fall until Revelation 12, until the two witnesses are killed. It obviously he has fallen in the sense of from the favor of Yahweh, but he is not trapped in hell just yet. So that's why I opened the second possibility of Gadriel, who fell here, having been sent by Lucifer to fool Chava. So the name of the third is Gadriel. He revealed to the daughters of men all the ways to give death. And as we know, the snake offered the tree of knowledge, claiming that men wouldn't die if they ate, yet exactly the opposite happened. So that was a way to give death, given the fruit of knowledge. It was he who led astray Chava, and he is who taught to the sons of Adam the instruments of death, the shield, the breastplate, and the swords for slaughter, and every instrument of death. So we see how he taught about pretty much instruments of war. And as we know, Lucifer is in charge of war, in charge of, well, a lot of bad things. But as also I have said before, when Yahweh would manifest as Yahweh Sabaoth, the title Sabaoth means of hosts. It means of hosts. But Sabaoth, according to the Gnostic books, was another name for Halel, for Lucifer. So that means that he would manifest with armies as a, well, as I was saying, the same that he taught humans which we also see in Ezekiel 28, for instance, of how he destroyed the earth, because that's what he does. So we see that he taught men about instruments of war. So it says the shield, the breastplate, and the swords for slaughter, and every instrument of death. From his hand they proceeded against those who live on the earth since that day and for all the generations. Since that day and for all the generations. The name of the fourth is Panamuel. This one showed the sons of Adam what is bitter and what is sweet, and revealed to them all the secrets of his wisdom. He taught the sons of Adam to understand letters and to write with ink and scrolls. Therefore, numerous have been those who have been deviated due to it from its beginning even to this day. So this is interesting. He taught men how to write books pretty much. And that became also a sin, not to write a book, but the fact that once they learned, they started writing about all kinds of evil things. So just like nowadays, there are thousands upon thousands of books about witchcraft, about Satanism, about really things that really don't matter. So a lot of people spend their time reading books that actually destroy their mind, yet they believe they are so smart because they are reading books. But not all books are for the good of the mind of men. For instance, there is a book called The God Delusion. And we know what God is. We just saw it. So in a way, the title fits. But The God Delusion, written by one of the most famous atheists in the world. And it is a book which, sadly, people have read, and it has destroyed their faith in the Creator. It has destroyed their faith in the Bible, because they didn't have that much faith to begin with, as to be destroyed so easily. And secondly, they haven't read it that much, the scriptures, yet they went and read that other book. So they got all confused and ended up becoming atheists. But even worse than that, I have read about people who have killed themselves because of that book. There was a kid from high school who was being bullied in school because of his belief in the Creator, in the Bible. So he was given that book, The God Delusion. And it confused him so much that he ended up committing suicide, because he was convinced that there was no Creator. So he killed himself. Imagine, people have no idea, even though it is written and we are told, but people have no idea the power there is in words, and the effect that they can have on the mind of a person just in general, but mostly young people. Also, we know that, for instance, when it comes to scriptures, we are told that we can examine all things. We take the good, we reject the bad. But to do that, we need to have knowledge of what's good and what's bad first. And to get that knowledge, we need to study scriptures first, deeply, till we understand them. And then, based on what we learned on scriptures, you can go and read other things to realize if they are of the Creator or not. But people jump and they go and read a bunch of books from other areas, and they get all confused because they haven't really read the scriptures. A lot of people think they already know scriptures because they have been going to church. A lot of people think they know scriptures because I don't really know, because we know how much we have learned in scriptures. Those who are part of the ministry know how much we have learned from scriptures. We have been going for about 7 years, reading, pretty much 3 chapters a week. Yeah. And we still haven't finished the whole book. And we have learned so much from each of those chapters. Yet people expect to only read a couple verses and know what the scriptures are about. They expect to read one of the letters of the new covenant and that's it. But they don't really get into scriptures. And that is very sad, because that means they don't know the Father, so they can be easily confused with all those books that were written by people like this. So I say all of that because a lot of people, like the ones I was talking about that they believe to be intellectuals, would use this to say, you see that the Almighty Creator doesn't want you reading anything or studying. But that is not the point. The point is the confusion that evil knowledge, in this case, brings to those who do not know the Creator really. For instance, what I was saying regarding Masons and how they worship Lucifer, they claim to worship wisdom, but they don't know what wisdom is, because wisdom, the beginning of wisdom, is the fear of Yahweh. So they don't fear Yahweh. Therefore, they haven't even started with wisdom, yet they claim to have it. Yet, as we know, that is the evil wisdom that comes from Ashtaroth. Is actually that spirit. Ashtaroth is the spirit of evil wisdom, which fools them to think that they are wise, like the serpent. But the serpent is still a beast. So they want to be as smart as a beast. How dumb is that? We must seek the true wisdom which comes from the heavens through the fear of Yahweh. So if we fear Yahweh, and that's another point, they don't understand what that is, because they think we are saying to be afraid of Yahweh, which is different. If you know Yahweh, you fear him, you honor him, you revere him. And if you know him, then once you've, if you sin, then you should be afraid. If you reject him, if you blaspheme again, you should be afraid. But that's not what the Almighty is saying when it writes that the beginning of wisdom is the fear of Yahweh. When you want to honor Yahweh, that is when Yahweh will give you wisdom for you to honor him the way you're supposed to. So going back to this verse, he taught the sons of Adam to understand letters and to write with ink and scrolls. And as we know, I repeat, well, there are books in which we read how Adam was given a heavenly book. That would mean that he was taught by that angel how to read. But in this case, the knowledge was given to many people, and many people who were sinful. Therefore, what they wrote about was not of the Father, was not for the improvement of humanity. Instead, the opposite. Therefore, numerous have been those who have been deviated due to it. In Judaism, Jewish people, they are forbidden from reading anything other than the Talmud and their writings. Completely forbidden from reading any text from anybody in any way that may say something against their belief. And that is kind of extreme also, because that is not freedom. So there are two extremes. And like I said, if we have the knowledge of the Father, meaning of, well, in this case, not exactly the same, but the knowledge of good and evil as given by the Torah, then we'll be able to judge what we are reading and if we should continue to read what we are reading. But in Judaism, when they take that extreme, mainly they do it because they know that if they go and search, they will realize that Yahushua is the Messiah and that they have been lied to for their entire lives. So that is one of the main reasons why they forbid people from reading other books, even the scriptures. They have curses so that people, Jewish people, won't read Daniel 9 and calculate the time, because if they do so, they will realize Yahushua is the Messiah. They have curses that they put on people if they read the scriptures and they claim to be believers in scriptures. But that is something that Satan would do. So they do that in Judaism. They're so afraid of people realizing that Yahushua is the Messiah that they prohibit people from reading anything else other than their own books. On the other hand, in Christianity, we have the other extreme in which they don't read the scriptures, but pastors write books by the thousands just to make money, saying pretty much nothing, or in many cases, something very different than what the scripture says. They make a bunch of books that are just to make people feel good, but not to know the truth, not to know the Father, not to know the scriptures, just for you to feel good, for you to continue with your life. Motivational books. For instance, the one by Joel Osteen called Your Best Life Now. It is amazing that people don't see it, because if it is your best life now, that means that you're going to hell, because your worst life will be later. If your best life is now, then you're stuck in hell later. But that's what he wrote and made him millions, still making him money and, well, everything else that he does. He's one of the pastors that even atheists like. He's watched by atheists. And that is not a good thing, because many people may say, oh, that's so good that an atheist like this Christian pastor. No, it's not, if he remains an atheist. If an atheist can see your teaching on scriptures and feel comfortable, is because you're not teaching scriptures. It's that simple. An atheist should either get angry or convert. One of the two. That's it. But that is the type of Christianity of nowadays. So there are two extremes. Christians write a bunch of books and people don't touch the scriptures because they say, I don't understand the scriptures. I will read somebody explaining the scriptures, and they read one of those books where the scriptures are not really mentioned or explained, because they may write 1, 2, 3 verses, but that's it. On the other hand, they got the Jewish people who just don't let you read anything because you must believe what you were told, and that's it. And then, and I'm talking about two extremes in the world of believers. But outside that world, there are books about every single thing that you can think of. All sorts of stupid stuff, really. Stupid knowledge. Obviously, there's good knowledge also. But, I mean, everybody writes books now. You see them on TV all the time promoting their books. Books about nothing. Autobiographies about people that haven't done anything in life other than being a celebrity. So, yeah, sadly, people think that just reading a book will make you intelligent. No, depends on what book. So, going back, therefore, numerous have been those who have been deviated due to it, from its beginning even to this day. Even to this day. For men were not brought to the world for the purpose to support their belief with ink and with paper. Look at that. Men were not brought to the world for the purpose to support their belief with ink and with paper. That was not the point, for people to claim their belief with books and more books and more books, because that would bring confusion. Were not brought to the world for the purpose to support their belief with ink and with paper. Because, like I was saying regarding people who do not know scriptures, they're easily confused. Like I was saying, I am reading a book, I don't have it here right now, but the one I was mentioning of Masons claiming that Lucifer is the good one. And it is amazing, really, what they say, the way they say it. And I wouldn't be surprised if a person, even a Christian, would read those books, those things that they say, thinking they're so smart and using big words, 5 syllables and all of that, just to make people think like they know what they're talking about. I wouldn't be surprised if Christians would turn in their belief towards Lucifer because of the way they speak and how they confuse things. For instance, one of the things that Albert Pike uses is that how can Lucifer be the god of darkness if he has light in his name? For instance, that right there may get confused. A lot of people might get confused with that. With those words. Like I have said before, Lucifer is not the only Satan. Samael would be the one of darkness. Lucifer is the one who uses light to fool people. Just like you can be blinded by the light. So Samael is above those who are blinded in darkness. Lucifer is above those who are blinded by the light. But they are both blind. Those people who worship Samael, those who worship Lucifer. So since there are two Satans, and I'm not including Azazel yet, two Satans, but Masons only speak of one, just like Jewish people only speak of one Satan, Samael. Christians only speak of one Satan, Lucifer. But there are two. If we add the knowledge of Judaism and that of Christianity, we find out there are two Satans. And I repeat, I'm not including the third one. But if we understand that there are two Satans, we won't get fooled that easily. Because when Albert Pike is saying that Lucifer is the god of light and that Jehovah is the god of darkness, he's actually meaning Samael. But he doesn't know, or he knows, and he's fooling everybody. But some people would hear the fact that light is in the name of Lucifer and be like, why is that? He might be good, when scripture says that Satan can appear as an angel of light. So he is not the light, but he may act like he was because he can fool people with the power that was given to him. So like I said, there are certain things that those in Masonry and in the Illuminati would say that would confuse a lot of Christians, sadly, because they don't know their scriptures. So it says, rather, well, I'll go back to the verse. For men were not brought to the world for the purpose to support their belief with ink and with paper. Rather, the sons of Adam have been created with the intentions that they might live pure and righteous. The point is to live a set apart and righteous life, not to convince everybody that you're right and that the Almighty doesn't exist, which is what they end up doing with those books. Rather, the sons of Adam have been created with the intentions that they might live set apart and righteous, so that death, which destroys everything, might not reach them. Death, which destroys everything, might not reach them. So if we live a set apart and righteous life, death cannot touch us. Now, as we know, according to the Torah, once we sin, death entered the flesh, and therefore it is pretty much natural for every person to die eventually. That's why Mashiach had to come to give us life. But thankfully, in these end times, Yahweh would raise up 144,000 who through Mashiach will become set apart and righteous, and therefore death won't touch them. Intentions that they might live pure and righteous, so that death, which destroys everything, might not reach them. But by fault of this knowledge of theirs, they perish. By fault of this knowledge. What knowledge? The knowledge of writing. And once again, I repeat, because obviously the Almighty wanted us to know how to write and read, because then how would we read the scriptures, and how would Moshe write them down? So it was a matter of time and the process of spiritual evolution that humanity had to go through, in the sense that, remember that earth was created in 7 days. The seventh, he created rest. So just like one day is like 1,000 years, then the 7 days of creation represented 7 millenniums, the seventh being the millennium of rest. Therefore, 6,000 years of this world being under sin. We're approaching the end of those 6,000 years, thankfully. And therefore, each of the 1,000 years of the past 6,000 is connected to one of the days of the 6 days of creation. So first, in the first day, Yahweh made light, then separated the waters. That second day of separating the waters is connected to the millennium in which the flood came. So before that, only light was created, which would have been the knowledge that man received at the beginning when Adam and Eve came out of the garden. Then the flood, then the third day, earth came out of the waters, then plants, then the luminaries. That's when Mashiach came as the light of the world on the 4th millennium and gave us understanding of the truth. And that's why on the 4th day, the first creatures were created, because after Mashiach came, the creatures, humans, would know the truth, but they were not yet at the point where Yahweh wanted them. So they were like fish and birds, the 5th day. And then comes the 6th day when Yahweh made men. So that means that the true human being that Yahweh wanted to create would come until the year 6,000. And that would be the 144,000. The 144,000 are pretty much the example of the human being that Yahweh wanted to create at the beginning of creation. And obviously, the model for that human being is Mashiach. Obviously, right? So, but by fault of this knowledge of theirs, they perish, and its power devours them. Because I repeat, through books, a lot of people received knowledge of how to sin, how to be worse people, how to do witchcraft and all of that. If those people had not read those books, they wouldn't have sinned like they did. So imagine throughout the years, for instance, even the books that Shlomo wrote, which are pretty much the most important books in witchcraft. And I'm talking about the wrong books, not the ones that we have in scriptures. Of course, those are inspired by the creator, but when Shlomo, went away from the Father, he wrote a lot of books of witchcraft. And they are still used until this day. So they have done a lot of bad to humanity, those books. And then they created TV so that people didn't need to read. And they are being programmed with a bunch of evil. And you know how it is said that art imitates life and life imitates art, and so on and so forth. One imitates the other, and they go around and around and around. So sadly, through art, through TV, through entertainment, like I always say, they have entertained the mind. Entertainment. And they have programmed, with all the TV programs, they have programmed humans to act a certain way. They have changed culture into what they wanted it to be, filled with lust and other bunch of things. So that's why death, but by fault of this knowledge of theirs, they perish, and its power devours them. Like I was saying, just like the knowledge of, well, witchcraft and a bunch of other evil destroys them, while they think that they are becoming gods, as they say. They think they are becoming gods. They think they're super smart. They think they're better than everybody else, but they don't know that that knowledge is actually destroying them. But by fall of this knowledge of theirs, they perish, and its power devours them. The name of the fifth is Kazdayael. Kazdayael. He showed the sons of Adam every strike of the spirits and the gods. The strike of the embryo in the womb for it to abort. Oh, well, I had mentioned abortion earlier, but this would be the one that taught it. So the other ways of killing were like, well, all other kinds. The fact that he mentioned it to women, women were used to doing a lot of witchcraft. I mean, they still are some, but I say that because for instance, in witchcraft, women are pretty much stronger than men. That's why you hear more of witches than warlocks or other titles. Witches are more powerful normally than men in witchcraft. So that's why what it was said earlier regarding the angel that taught females, right? Gabriel, and taught to the sons of Adam the instruments of death. Oh no, the one before that, revealed to the daughters of men all the ways to give death. So obviously, males also use witchcraft, but they are a little bit more violent. So when it comes to the death taught to men, that would refer to war, stuff like that. And to females, the mixing of plants and other things, poisons, in order to give death. So now going back to the one I was reading here. The name of the fifth is Kazdayael, who showed the sons of Adam every strike of the spirits and the Elohim. The strike of the embryo in the womb for it to abort. So imagine how crazy that they started with abortion before the flood. And is one of the things that they talk about the most nowadays when it comes to politicians and feminism, when they claim that they have the right to kill children in their womb, and even after they come out of the womb, which they shouldn't call abortion, but they still call it abortion. They give birth and then they kill the child afterwards. And those are things that they are doing nowadays. Like I said, the days of the Son of Man would be like the days of Noach. So we see the similarities here. The strike of the embryo in the womb for it to abort. The bite of the serpent. The strike which comes over with the midday heat. And it says here, well, Psalms 91:6. Let me read that one. 91:6. It says, of the pestilence that walks in darkness, of destruction that ravages at midday. That's the verse mentioned here. The strike of the embryo in the womb for it to abort, the bite of the serpent, the strike. So pretty much like showing how to take the poison from the serpent in order to also kill others. The strike which comes over with the midday heat, by the offspring of the serpent, the name of which is Tabaet. By the offspring of the serpent, the name of which is Tabaet. There's a comment here, most likely Strong's 2880 Tibhat, literally slaughter, a reference to the great persecution by the image of the beast after he violates the set apart place. So I will go to Strong's 2880. I guess this is a good example. Yeah, for thy sake are we killed all day long. We are counted as sheep for the slaughter. As sheep for the slaughter. Just like the enemy will go after those who believe and will only be able to kill those who have rejected the name, but who sadly are many. So he will go and kill the many when they don't accept the mark of the beast, from the image of the beast, who will manifest as the abomination of desolation. So he was saying, the strike of the embryo in the womb for it to abort. The bite of the serpent, the strike which comes over with the midday heat by the offspring of the serpent, the name of which is Tabat, the offspring of the serpent. So if the serpent is Satan, then the offspring of the offspring of the serpent would be the false Messiah, the Antichrist, the son of Satan. Also, it's interesting because obviously in the literal sense, it would be, you know how serpents are cold-blooded, so they need to come out when the heat is on. So when it is hot, the serpents come out to get that heat and feel better. So that's why they are out in the midday and they might strike. As it says here, with the midday heat by the offspring of the serpent, the name of which is Tabaet. So in the literal, serpents come out mainly at midday to get that heat, and they may attack because, for instance, they get in the way of where men are going. They get in the way because that's where the sun hits. So if men are walking down and don't see it, they will get beaten. But in the spiritual sense, once again, remember that the day of the coming of the Son of Man would be the last 7 years, which are divided in 3.5 and 3.5. There are several ways in which we can see that, for we know the last comes as a thief in the night, and the end of times is the night. But when we take, like if we were to take the 7,000, it says midday, the mid of those, 7,000, the 7 years. If we were going to take the 7 years of the last week of Daniel, the mid of those 7 years would be when the destroyer, Abaddon, in Revelation, will kill the two witnesses. So by the offspring of the serpent, the two witnesses, the witness like Moshe, the son of man, will be killed in midday by the offspring of the serpent. So the bite of the serpent, the strike which comes over with the midday heat by the offspring of the serpent, the name of which is Tabaet. And another interesting thing regarding the offspring of the serpent, if we go to Isaiah 14, look at this one. Verse 29. Do not rejoice, all you Philistia, that the rod that struck you is broken. For out of the serpent's roots comes forth an adder, and its offspring is a fiery flying serpent. So there are three serpents, like I was saying, three Satans. The serpent's roots, that's Samael. Samael is the root of all serpents, is the root of all fallen angels. Then an adder, another type of serpent, another type of snake, which would represent Halel, Lucifer, who came from Samael. And its offspring, the false Messiah, Azazel, who will manifest as the offspring of God. And its offspring, a flying serpent of fire. So that's why Azazel is in the fire. He will come down, out of Abaddon and destroy the earth with fire, and will appear in the heavens, in the sky, because they are waiting for Messiah in the clouds. So he will appear as a flying Christ. That's why the flying serpent, who in the culture of, well, several actually cultures in America back in the day, was called Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl, the flying serpent, or the feathered serpent, who happened to look just like Jesus. Because when the Europeans came to America, they were confused with Kukulkan. They thought Kukulkan was coming to the earth when they saw the Europeans with long hair, white skin, and light eyes. So they thought that was Kukulkan, which is interesting because that's how they made Jesus, who happens to be a serpent, because he's not the Messiah, right? The Messiah's name is Yahushua, and he doesn't look like Jesus looks. So we see here the offspring, which is a flying serpent, that will be the false Messiah, the abomination of desolation that we are seeing right here on Hanoch. So by the offspring of the serpent, the name of which is Taba'et. And I would, let me see if that was the case here. Yes, I would say, like here, that I'm gonna use this one actually. Tabach might be better. Tabach as slaughtering animal. So he will be the one who will slaughter the many for not taking the mark of the beast. And look how the word starts with a tet, not with a tav. The tet is the other letter that sounds like a T in the Hebrew alphabet. However, the tet used here represents a snake. As you can see, is like a snake. This will be the head, and then it will go around, and here's the tail. So the tet represents a snake. Also, a basket to put in a snake. But it's interesting that the word that connects with the serpent would start with the letter tet. And it would be the serpent that enters the temple and creates division. And if we were to take the other one, it would be the serpent that enters the temple, because we know that Yahushua said, when you see the abomination of desolation in the set apart place, what is the set apart place? The temple. Those who are in the mountain, those who are in Yehuda, go to the mountains. The head is a wall of division, and the hay is revelation, is ruach, and other things. So we could see this word as the serpent that will enter the temple to cause division with his spirit. But if we see, it said Taba'et. Yeah, we would have to see it written down in Hebrew to have that letter at the end. Let's say it was a tav. In this case, it would be the serpent who will enter the temple and cause division in the end of time. So now let's go back to Hanoch. I thought you guys were looking at the word when I was saying that, so my bad. Let me do it again. Here we go. So the tet, like a snake, right? The head and the tail. So it starts with a tet, not a tav. The tet is connected with a snake, and that will be the snake that enters the temple to cause division with his spirit. So the serpent that enters the temple, and as we know, the temple of Yahweh is the body. So that would mean also that there is a snake who will enter a human body to create division through his ruach, or his revelation, in the sense that when he reveals himself in the world. All right, so, and if we take the et of here, and let's say it was a tav, then that would mean the serpent that enters the temple to cause division at the end of time. Verse 19. This is the task of the Lamb of the power. And it says here, Casviel from Strong's 3775 and 410. This is the one they are saying, which is Kesev, which means lamb or young ram or sheep. Keseb. And it also said, so it's saying that it is a mix between Keseb and El, this name that appears here. The task of the Lamb of the power. He revealed to the set apart ones the chief of the oath, who dwells in the worth of the Most High, or in the kabod, in the honor of the Most High. Furthermore, he caused the people to penetrate the secret of writing and the use of ink and paper. On account of this matter, there are many who have erred from eternity to eternity until this very day. For human beings are not created for such purposes, to take up their beliefs with pen and ink. For indeed, human beings were not created but to be like Malachim, permanently to maintain pure and righteous lives. Death, which destroys everything, would not have touched them, had it not been through their knowledge by which they shall perish. Had it not been through their knowledge by which they shall perish, like the knowledge of good and evil, which made death enter humanity. Death is now eating us by means of this power. The power of writing lies on paper and for others to read and believe them. Then it says the fifth is named Kasadyah. It is he who revealed to the children of the people the various flagellations of all evil, flagellation of all of the souls and the demons, the smashing of the embryo in the womb. Okay, it said demons, where the other translation wrote gods. So yeah, demons are what are called gods nowadays. In fact, we see it also in the concordance, as when Paul told those who were superstitious, he told them that they were believers in demons, as the concordance writes it. Then it says the smashing of the embryo in the womb so that it may be crushed, the flagellation of the soul, snake bites, sunstrokes, the son of the serpent whose name is Tabata. And this is the number of Kazbel, Keseb El, the Lamb of the Mighty One. That's why the other one just wrote the translation of the name instead of the name. And this is the number of Kazbel, chief executor of the oath which he revealed to the Kodesh ones while he was still dwelling in the highest in splendor. That's why it makes sense, like the other translation wrote it, that it would be the lamb that would come to the earth. His name was then Becca, and he spoke to Michael to disclose to him the secret name so that he would memorize this secret name of his. This is huge. So we'll go back to the other translation in a moment. And this is the number of Kazbel. And I repeat, it will be Kesev El, which means the Lamb of the Mighty One. The chief executor of the oath. Mashiach came as the Lamb, and he said, this is the blood of the oath, which he revealed to the Kodesh ones, the chosen, the disciples, etc. While he was still dwelling in the highest in splendor, while he was still within the Father. So the other translation says, this is the task of the Lamb of the power. He revealed to the set apart ones the chief of the oath, who dwells in the worth of the Most High, His name is among the ibexes. This is here, source text. Its name is Becca. Its name is Becca, which we just saw on the other translation. A reference to verse 22. Akai with the read article be instead attached, meaning among. The ibexes are referred to as being those sheep whose eyes are open to see the truth, also seen as the seeing believers in Hanoch 89:15. All right, so I kind of want to go, I want to read both translations, but I don't want to get any of you confused. So let me see. First with this one, as I was saying, his name is among the ibexes. The ibex is found in one of the parables that we will see eventually in this book, chapter 89, as the believers pretty much who are able to see the Father through the Messiah and obviously his name. So here the translator is translating the word that in the other translation is appearing as Becca. So here we have that it says, his name was then Becca, and he spoke to Michael. But in this case, then it would be Mashiach speaking to Michael. So the word speaking to the voice, first speaking to the last. So here we have, his name is among the ibexes. This one asked Michael. You see here, just so you guys know, the translator of this version claims or believes Michael is Mashiach. However, like I have said many times, they are first and last, Yahushua and Michael. So I don't see an issue here when it says this one asked Michael. Which one? The one who is in the word of the Most High, the one who is the chief of the oath, the Lamb of the Mighty One, as we see here. So the Lamb is telling Michael something. But since this translator believes that Michael is the Lamb himself, then he has to write here that it was the Almighty speaking instead. So that's why it has that there. So this one asked Michael, and this is so important, and it's amazing to find it in the book of Hanoch. This one asked Michael to reveal to them the secret name in order that they might understand that pure name and thus make mention of the oath. I hope you guys are hearing that. I am not saying that which is in the parentheses. The translator put those parentheses there to help the reader, because as we know, the name Yahushua was given to Mashiach before creation itself. But here, Yahweh, Mashiach, the Lamb of the Mighty One, is telling Michael to reveal the name, the secret name. There are a lot of things to be said here. First, the fact that the Lamb tells Michael to reveal the name is huge, because that is pretty much what happens at the end of time. As we see in the book of Revelation, Mashiach, Yahushua, sends his angel, as we see in Revelation 22. That angel is Michael, and he is sent to reveal the name of Mashiach, so that those who hear it may be saved through the name, for the name means Yahweh saves. So Mashiach sends Michael to reveal the name, just like he did right here. It's something that will happen in the end times. And I say that because the name is not mentioned literally here. It's just in the parentheses. We that are in the end times and already know that Mashiach came and know his name, we know to whom he's referring, or to which name he's referring. But I repeat, it's like the word telling the voice to reveal, because the voice reveals that which is in the mind. And therefore, the mind is telling Michael to reveal the name so that people may receive salvation. Going back, this is the task of the Lamb of the Mighty One. He revealed to the set apart ones the chief of the oath, who dwells in the word of the Most High. His name is among the ibexes. This one asked Michael to reveal to them the secret name, that is the name of Mashiach, Yahushua, in order that they might understand, which is amazing because we read in scriptures that when we confess the name of Mashiach, the Ruach HaKodesh comes to us. John 14:26. And according to the first letter of John, it is that spirit that teaches us all things. Therefore, it is through the name that we get to understand. And that may seem weird to people who do not have the name, but to those who have it, know it's true. Because you may have read the scriptures and understood several things, but once you get to receive the name and then read the scriptures again using the name, you realize you understand a lot more. So much more that it pretty much seems like you didn't understand anything previously. So look how it says, to reveal the secret name in order that they might understand the pure name. And thus, once you understand the pure name, and thus make mention of the oath. For we know that the name Yahushua is the oath. Because when we confess with our mouth Yahushua, we are confessing that Yahweh will save us. And that is the oath to be confessed with the mouth, like Romans 10 says. Romans 10:10, with the heart one believes unto righteousness, but with the mouth confession is made unto salvation. And thus make mention of the oath, because those who have revealed every secret thing to the sons of Adam tremble before this name and oath. The fallen angels, the demons, tremble before this name and oath. So important, because those who have revealed every secret thing to the sons of Adam tremble before this name and oath. So Yahweh is telling through Mashiach, telling Michael to go and reveal the name so that men can have power and authority over the fallen angels, demons, because they tremble before this name and oath. Let me go to Isaiah 49:1. Listen to me, O coastlands, and hear, you peoples from afar. Yahweh has called me from the womb. From my mother's belly, he has caused my name to be remembered. He has caused my name to be remembered. Pretty much, this is the Ruach of Mashiach speaking through Yeshayahu. Yeshayahu means the salvation of Yahu, the salvation of Yahweh. So Yeshayahu, Yahu, Yesha, it's pretty similar to Yahushua, meaning similar in meaning. So listen to me, O coastlands, and hear. This is also important because I just showed how in Hanoch, the Lamb is telling Michael, go and reveal the name. Just like it happens in Revelation 22 when Yahushua says, I am sending my malach to give testimony to the congregations. So the last is the malach of Mashiach who comes in the end to reveal the name of Mashiach. Mashiach came from Israel. Israel is close to Yahweh because that is his land. So the fact that it says here, listen to me, O coastlands, and hear you peoples from afar, is referring to us in the end times, far in time, far in space from Israel. Hear you peoples from afar, Yahweh has called me from the womb, from my mother's belly, he has caused my name to be remembered. Showing how the name of Mashiach is so important. The name was remembered when Mashiach was in the womb because the Malach Gabriel came to Miriam and told her how that child would be named Yahushua, because Yahweh would save us from our sins. Read these verses here just a second before we continue. So, and this is the number of Kazbel, chief executor of the oath, which he revealed to the Kodesh ones while he was still dwelling in the high splendor. His name was then Becca. You see how it kind of doesn't make sense when you just read these words instead of the translation of them. His name was then Becca. Then when? And how did it change? Instead, his name was with the ibexes, which are those who believe. And he spoke to Michael to disclose to him his secret name so that he would memorize this secret name of his, so that he would call it up in an oath, in order that they shall tremble before it and the oath. Taking it back to the name of Mashiach, it was pretty much the Lamb telling Michael, reveal the name so that the angels may tremble. And as you guys know, when Mashiach came and he was going to take out certain demons from people, the demons would recognize him and say, why are you here before the time? They would tremble. So that means they knew the name and they would tremble. They also knew that it wasn't time for them to be punished because it was 2,000 years before the end. So they were confused why Mashiach appeared 2,000 years before the end. So now let me go back to the other translation. This one asked Michael to reveal them the secret name in order that they might understand that pure name, and thus make mention of the oath, because those who have revealed every secret thing to the sons of Adam tremble before his name and oath. Here is the power of that oath, for strong it is and powerful. And he arranged this oath of the ibexes, and going back to the common, well, it says source text, this oath of Akah, ibexes in Hebrew, was transliterated here as explained above note. Okay. And he arranged this oath of the ibexes by the instrumentality of Michael. I think even because now it's been a while since I read the book of Hanoch, and I find it even more interesting now when it comes to the fact that I believe you can see clearly that Mashiach is speaking to Michael to reveal the name of Mashiach. It wouldn't make that much sense if Mashiach was Michael, because he's being told to reveal the name of somebody. So when he arranged this oath of the ibexes by the instrumentality of Michael as the messenger of the Lamb who reveals his name, Yahushua. These are the secrets of this oath, and they are strong. By means of his oath, by means of his oath, they are strong. We could say the secrets, but mainly those who have the oath. By means of his oath, they are strong. Because we can do all things through Mashiach who strengthens us. So by means of the oath, Yahushua, we are strengthened. Even the heavens were suspended before the world was made. Even the heavens were suspended before the world was made by means of it. Like I said, the name was given to Mashiach before creation itself. Everything that was created came through Mashiach. So that's why the heavens were suspended before the world was made. By means of it, by means of it has the land been founded above the water, while from the most concealed parts of the mountains proceed forth beautiful waters, from the creation of the world until eternity. Look how it's, well, mentioning pretty much creation, but starting with the water, just like Mashiach is the water. By means of it has the land been founded above the water, while from the most concealed parts of the mountains proceed forth beautiful waters, from the creation of the world until eternity. By this oath, the sea has been formed, and for its foundation, during the period of the fury, he established the sand against it. And she does not dare to invade further since the creation of the world until the age. And by this oath, the depths and are firm and stable and do not move from their station from age to age. By this oath, so remember, I repeat, the oath is the name of Mashiach, Yahushua. It is an oath that we make with our mouth that Yahweh will save us. And it is through the oath that everything was created, because Mashiach is the word through whom everything came to be. John 1. So he is the oath through whom everything was created. And because of that oath, everything is pretty much established and remains. So by this oath, the luminary orb and moon complete their route without disobeying the command given to them forever and ever. By this oath, the stars follow their course. By this oath, the stars follow their course. He calls them by their names, and they return and answer from age to age. Likewise, the spirits of the waters, of the winds, and of all the breezes from all the regions of the earth. There are kept the voice of thunder and the splendor of the lightning, and there are kept the stores of pelting, ice rocks, frost, snow, rain, and dew. All these profess and loud it before the sovereign of spirits. And they praised him with all their energy. So he sustains them in all that act of acknowledgement, while they loud praise and exalt the name of Yahweh, the sovereign of spirits, forever and ever. This oath is powerful, and through it, their paths are preserved, and their course shall not be destroyed. And there was great joy among them. They blessed, honored, and exalted Yahweh, because the name of the son of Adam has been revealed to them. So here we confirm that it is talking about the son, about Mashiach. And there was great joy among them. They blessed, honored, and exalted Yahweh, because the name of the son of Adam has been revealed to them. So far, scriptures, called Hanoch, son of Adam. Obviously, that is not the son of Adam to whom this verse is referring. It is talking about the son of Adam who would come to save humanity, Mashiach. So they blessed, honored, and exalted Yahweh, because the name of the son of Adam has been revealed to them. So we see there that is referring to the name Yahushua. Remember that I always say how Yahushua spoke in the third person about the son of Adam, talking about himself and the second coming. So the last is the son of Adam, and the title fits him because he comes from a male and a female, unlike Mashiach, who came from the virgin. So he is the seed of the woman, as promised in Genesis 3:15. However, remember that there are two spellings for Yahushua, one with one vav, one with two vavs, but they are both pronounced the same. And that has to do with the first and second coming. So also we see in Revelation that Yahushua will receive a new name. But other than that, my point is that the last will become one with the first. So the name Yahushua will also fit the last once he's resurrected. So they blessed, honor, and exalted Yahweh, because the name of the son of Adam has been revealed to them. And the other translation says, then there came to them a great joy, and they blessed, magnified, and extolled Yahweh on account of the fact that the name of the Son of Man was revealed to them. He shall never pass away or perish from before the face of the earth. Verse 39, he sat upon the throne of his worth, and the sum of the judgment has been given to him, the son of Adam, and he shall make errant ones be expelled and destroyed from the face of the earth, while those who deviated them shall be bound with chains. And in the place where they had been gathered for the destruction, they shall be imprisoned, and all their works will disappear from the face of the earth. And thenceforward nothing will corrupt itself, for this son of Adam has appeared and has seated himself upon the throne of his worth. So is referring to our time when the angels will be finally punished, and then the kingdom of Yahweh will be established over this earth, and then Mashiach will sit on his throne, and therefore nothing will ever corrupt itself ever again. And thenceforward, nothing will corrupt itself, for this son of Adam has appeared and has seated himself upon the throne of his worth. Everything wicked shall depart from before his face, and the word of the son of Adam shall go forth and shall be strengthened by the presence of the sovereign of spirits. And the word of the son of Adam, that's interesting, because we know that the word is Mashiach, Yahushua the first. The son of Adam fits the last, who is the voice. So the word of the son of Adam, first and last, shall go forth and shall be strengthened by the presence of the sovereign of spirits, whose presence will fill this earth. This is the third parable of Hanoch. So this was the actual end of the parable, the third parable that we read last week. Look how it goes all the way till the end, and how important it is that it reveals the name of Mashiach.